You had asked a number of questions. You had asked me to bring my qualifications, and I brought my qualifications. You had asked me, I think you had implied that I was incompetent yesterday. And I'd like you to please explain to me whether, if I go through first the process that I have gone through to be considered for this job, including a confirmation by the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that it is appropriate to say to me that you consider me incompetent.
Thank you, Madam DG. Let me say something and say something fairly. We're trying as best as possible to present ourselves as maturely as possible. We are representatives of this country, elected members of parliament, and because we want to have a decent public hearing, irrespective of the provocation, we will not be responding to those issues that you raised, and I implore my members to abandon, not to bother about the use of words, kangaroo or no kangaroo. What is important is that we do our job.
Maybe I need to just make this little bit of clarification. DG, if any other person was sitting in your chair today, the person will have to account to Nigerian people just like yourself. This is not, you don't have traducers on this side of the divide. Nobody is taking a pot shot at you. If there's one person who is most important, most crucial in the matrix today, of where investors want the share, want the capital market to go, you are the person. Absolutely. I mean, regulator will show the way, and by reason of what you do, we're talking about what anybody says, what anybody does will determine what happens in the market.
From my perspective, what I was focusing on was the issues as someone who's leading a reform agenda, and I think Honorable Daramola had explained that it was important that I take this all in the context of the fact that we need to be running, given that we had a crisis from 2006 to 2009, and I come in and I need to be running in terms of making sure that we address that crisis. I think that context is very important. The context of our environment is also very, very important, which is that in the public sector, there is a lot of support that gets provided by the private sector in several ways. In fact, I think not just in our country, in other countries, there's an increasing appreciation that there are benefits or advantages that those of us who are in the private sector, public sector bring, and that those who come from the private sector bring. And so if you have teams that have both, that it is good. But on the fundamental issue of conflict of interest, on character, on issues of principle, conflict of interest issues are dealt with by establishing mechanisms that ensure that there is no conflict of interest. And where there's a conflict of interest, that there are mechanisms to deal with that conflict of interest.
Thank you, Chairman. One significant aspect of this process is I do not know whether you have issues with the contract staff that is not being ratified. It's just part of an explanation which can accompany your.
Maybe in order not to lose focus, maybe I should not take that immediately. The issues with the contract staff, we as an institution are looking to run an institution that can be put on auto drive. And how do you run an institution that can be put on auto drive? You set up an institution and you set up systems, not individuals. And how do you set up systems? You set out rules that relate to schedules of duty. So that whether you're there or you're not there, when job comes in, the system works and checks itself.
Well, it's a wonderful feeling because I've been trying, to get this for a while, and going through all the exams and then the training stage as well, and then coming to being inducted. It's no feeling can actually, there's no word to express how happy I am. But I'm grateful to God that, He has allowed this to happen.
The impact of the new inductees is that in this industry, as you have new people, they bring new ideas, new energy, new ways of doing things. And as we introduce new products, there is enough trading to go around. We have 200 companies listed in the market. There are a number of them that need active coverage, that need somebody to nurture them and bring them up. And typically it is the market makers that do that. But you also need coverage from the brokerage community to help to drive activity in those securities.
So today Nigeria is listed among the elite exchanges around the world who are launching such an index. We feel it's part of the market's broadening and deepening that the exchange has embarked upon over the last few years, and it adds to number 6, the indices in the Nigerian Stock Exchange Index Series, together with the All Share and the other sector indices. We're also delighted because we feel it's going to allow us to launch new products on the back of this index, such as exchange-traded funds and many others.
The components are 15 screen equities with weights applied to component stocks and subsectors from 7 sectors of the Nigerian stock market. Each subsector weight is capped at 40%, while the weight of each component stock is capped at 30%. The base date was December 31st, 2009, and the base value was 1,000.
How are you?
So the objective of the sectorial dinners really is to get companies, prospect companies, policymakers together to break bread, but at the same time to talk about issues that are very important to the growth of the particular sector.
Mr. President holding this bread in council, I remember after I got home after this event, I started getting calls and stuff. Is that what people do in council, is to eat bread?
Cassava bread.
Cassava bread. And Mr. President in council that day directed me that we must commercialize this because it's great bread. This was 40%, by the way. 40% substitution. And so we said we had to commercialize, and we did. Next slide. Now, can you please rise? They won't see you from there. MD of ETC, maybe you can come here. Because, oh, she wants to go for that. Yes, right. This bread here, this is great bread. And so that we brought enough so that you all can have one to take home. This bread was made by Rizolani here, UGC. They stepped up to the plate and they actually ran trials, 92 trials, isn't it? Before they came up with a recipe to get this done. This is the bread I eat every day. This bread, the president eats it every day. The president of Malawi came and was having dinner with our president. Please clap for this phenomenal Nigerian.
I'm glad to return to this responsibility, and I believe that the passage of time and the experience that we've all gathered during the past many years will equip us to discharge our responsibility to the very best of our ability and in a manner that would constitute an incentive to commitment to the highest standards of integrity among all those who are involved in the Nigerian stock market?
Well, first let me say that I felt highly honored and humbled to have been asked to assume the chair of the Investors Protection Fund when it met at its inauguration earlier today. The Investors Protection Fund is meant to put in place an arrangement that would minimize the negative impact that the failure of a dealing member of the stock exchange, the stockbroker, might have on an investor who had accessed the market through such a broker. If, for example, the broker's business went bust, or for some reason the investor lost money in the course of his dealing with his broker. Not lost through the rise and fall of prices in the market, right? But a structural problem, disaster that hit the broker with whom he dealt. So the fund would provide a measure of compensation, right, to reduce the impact of such loss. That is the whole idea of the Investors Protection Fund. So it will require on the part of the trustees a knowledge of and commitment to the rules under which it operates and assesses complaints, requests for compensation brought before the board. Secondly, it's hardly necessary to say, there must be absolute transparency, openness in the declaration of facts, so that anybody who deals with the fund would have no doubt in his mind whatsoever that he had been fairly treated, he has received justice, fairness. This step, that is really the reactivation, because this is not the first time that the fund has been set up, the reactivation of the Investor Protection Fund should enhance confidence in the market. So coming along with these other developments that you've mentioned should help the exchange to grow as confidence in the market is enhanced, so that those who come in to buy or to sell through their brokers would know that they are not taking unacceptable risks by dealing with brokers. And of course, the brokers on their part, they would know that this insurance, as it were, is a kind of insurance, is not meant to underwrite their incompetence or lack of integrity. Because integrity is absolutely fundamental. And that's why stockbrokers say that their word is their bond. And the Board of Trustees would be around to assist the process of maintaining that utmost confidence in the market.
The old Investor Protection Fund existed at the exchange for some time. And then with the inauguration, or with the enactment of the ISA of 2007, we haven't reconstituted the Board of Trustees to run the Investor Protection Fund. So what we've done today is 5 years in the making. and we inaugurated the Board of Trustees that would actually execute on the intent of the ISA 2007 Act. We took a deep breath and looked at the different constituents or components of the capital markets. And we wanted people of high integrity to participate in this board. We're expecting the board to be very transparent, to help with actually creating a bright line as to what the guidelines are for giving back monies to investors who have suffered some kind of pecuniary loss as a result of the activities of our stockbrokering firm. So this is not people that have lost money because the market went against them. This is if a stockbrokering firm goes out of business, or if some kind of act of theft has happened by the stockbrokering firm. Those are the kind of things that we'll be looking at. And then we also, I would also expect them to devise new ways of raising the quantum of funds in the fund. So we have about 650 million naira in the fund as of today. If we just keep paying and we don't bring in new money, the money will finish soon. So what we are going to be expecting from the fund is to find a way to continue to regenerate that fund, even as we pay out to legitimate claimants. And then the last thing I would expect from them is to run it at a very high level, meeting global best practices and standards. Well, the Board of Trustees is going to look at things like creating insurance, coming up with the right amount of annual contributions that market participants have to make. So there are different things they have to look at. What we want to do is to make sure that we do not increase the burden on the market. Now, when I say on the market, both investors and operators, while making sure that we increase the level of risk management and the level of insurance that is built into the system. We think that will really help to support investor confidence.